Commander Yoon Dae-ho stood on the observation deck of New Seoul Colony, watching the morning sun rise over the settlement that 50,000 people called home. The planet Kepler 442 was beautiful, with purple grass covering the valleys and 3 small moons hanging in the pale blue sky. 12 years ago, when the first Korean settlers arrived, this place was empty wilderness. Now it had schools, hospitals, farms, and families who had built real lives here on the frontier. Dae-ho took a sip of his coffee and smiled. His daughter would graduate from the colony school next month. His wife worked at the agricultural center, developing crops that could grow in the alien soil. Life was good here, far from Earth's crowded cities and the complicated politics of the galactic community. The alarm shattered his peaceful morning. Red lights flashed across every screen in the command center. Dae-ho dropped his coffee cup and ran to the main terminal. His hands moved quickly across the controls, pulling up the sensor data. His blood went cold. A ship had appeared in orbit. But this was not a cargo vessel or a peaceful explorer. The sensors showed a massive warship, 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons. The design was unmistakable. It belonged to the Vrin Empire, the powerful alien civilization that controlled most of the galaxy. Dr. Kam Minji rushed into the command center, her medical coat still on from the night shift at the hospital. "What's happening? Why are the alarms going off?" Before Dae-ho could answer, the communication system crackled to life. A harsh voice spoke in the galactic common language, translated instantly by the computer. "Human settlement. This is the Vrin Imperial Dreadnought. Sovereign will. You are occupying territory that belongs to the Vrin Empire by ancient right. You have 6 hours to evacuate this planet. This is your only warning." Governor Park Jin-woo arrived moments later, his face pale but determined. Park was a good man who had been elected by the colonists 3 years ago. He had worked hard to make New Seoul a place where families could thrive. "They cannot do this," Park said, his voice shaking with anger. "We filed all the proper claims. We followed every rule. The Galactic Council approved our settlement rights." Dae-ho was already trying to establish communication with the Vrin ship. "This is Commander Yoon Dae-ho of New Seoul Colony. We are a legally established settlement under Galactic Treaty 447. This planet was unclaimed frontier territory. We have been here for 12 years. We have families, children, people who cannot be evacuated in 6 hours. Please, there must be some mistake." The response came after a long silence. "There is no mistake. Ancient Vrin territorial markers exist in this system. Your species is too primitive to detect them. You have 6 hours. If any humans remain after that time, we will cleanse the planet." Captain Lee Soo-min was already at the spaceport, preparing her cargo ship Morning Star for emergency launch. Lee was a tough woman who had spent 20 years flying between human colonies. She had carried supplies, equipment, and passengers through dangerous space. But she had never faced anything like this. "How many can you take?" Dae-ho asked her over the comm system. 3,000, maybe a bit more if we pack people in tight," Lee replied, running her hands over the ship's controls. "But Commander, that leaves 47,000 people with no way off this planet." Dae-ho felt sick. 3,000 out of 50,000. He looked at the screens showing the Vrin Dreadnought in orbit. It sat there like a hammer waiting to fall. He sent urgent messages to Earth, to nearby colonies, to anyone who might help. But the nearest human military ship was 2 weeks away at maximum speed. Other colonies had no ships large enough to help with evacuation. Dr. Kang worked frantically at the hospital, trying to decide which patients could be moved and which were too sick to survive transport. Tears ran down her face as she looked at the children in the pediatric ward. Some of them had been born here on Kepler 442. This was the only home they had ever known. The 6 hours passed, like minutes and like years at the same time. Captain Lee made 3 trips, cramming as many people as she could into the Morning Star. Families were torn apart. A mother begged to stay behind so her children could escape. A father gave up his seat to a pregnant woman he did not even know. Governor Park refused to leave, choosing to stay with the people who had elected him. Daeho watched the clock count down. 5 hours. 4 hours. 3 hours. He kept trying to contact the Vrin ship, pleading for more time, offering to negotiate, asking what the Empire wanted. The Vrin never responded again. Dr. Kang called Daeho 2 hours before the deadline. "I'm staying," she said simply. "I have 30 patients who cannot be moved. I will not abandon them." "Minji, please," Daeho begged. He had known her for 8 years. She had delivered his daughter, saved his wife from a dangerous illness, dedicated her life to healing. "There's nothing you can do for them if the Vrin attack. Then I will be with them when it happens," Kang said. "Someone should be—" "Go, Daeho. Get on that ship with your family. Live. Tell Earth what happened here." Daeho wanted to argue, but he knew that tone in her voice. He had heard it before from soldiers who had made their final choice. Instead, he saluted her through the video screen. "It has been an honor, Doctor." Captain Lee's final trip lifted off with 15 minutes to spare. Daeho sat in the cargo hold with his wife and daughter, surrounded by 3,000 terrified people. Through the ship's external cameras, they could see New Seoul Colony growing smaller below them. The buildings where they had lived, the streets where children had played, the parks where families had picnicked on sunny days. The 6-hour deadline passed. For 60 seconds, nothing happened. Hope flickered in the hearts of those watching. Maybe the Vrin had changed their minds. Maybe it was just a test. Maybe someone in the galactic government had intervened. Then the bombardment began. Beams of superheated plasma lanced down from the Vrin dreadnought. The colony's defense shields flared bright blue, holding for almost 3 minutes. Then they failed. The weapons struck the settlement directly. Buildings vaporized. The hospital where Dr. Kang had stayed disappeared in a flash of white light. The school, the farms, the homes, everything burned. From orbit, Captain Lee's cameras captured it all. The people in the cargo hold watched in horror as their world died. Some screamed. Some cried. Some just stared in silence. Governor Park sent one final message before the communications tower was destroyed. "Remember us. Remember what they did. Tell Earth. Tell everyone. We were citizens of humanity. We had rights. We had lives. We mattered." Then his signal cut off. The bombardment continued for another hour, making sure nothing survived. When it finally stopped, New Seoul Colony was gone. 47,000 people had been turned to ash. The Vrin dreadnought broadcast a brief statement to the galactic networks. Territorial violation corrected. The primitives were warned. Captain Lee set course for Earth, carrying 3,000 survivors and the video evidence of what had happened. In the cargo hold, Daeho held his crying daughter and made a promise to the 47,000 dead. They will answer for this. Somehow, they will answer for this. The news reached Earth 3 days later. Captain Lee's ship arrived at the orbital stations, carrying 3,000 survivors and video, footage that would change everything. Within hours, every screen on Earth showed the same images. The purple grass of Kepler 442, the peaceful colony, the Vrin dreadnought appearing in orbit, the 6-hour warning, the bombardment, the end. Jang So-yuk sat in the refugee center, staring at nothing. He had lost his wife, his 2 sons, and his parents in the attack. He had survived only because Captain Lee had grabbed him physically and dragged him onto the ship. He had fought her, screaming that he needed to go back for his family. Now he wished she had left him behind. Memorial services were held in every city on Earth. 50,000 names were read aloud. It took 16 hours to read them all. Millions of people stood in silence, listening to the names of the dead. Candles were lit. Flowers were placed at monuments. The entire planet mourned together. Ambassador Kim Yuna prepared to address the Galactic Council. She was a skilled diplomat who had spent 20 years building relationships with alien species. She believed in the power of laws and treaties. She believed the galactic community would stand with humanity against this injustice. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The Galactic Council met in a massive space station orbiting the neutral world of Concordia. Representatives from 300 species gathered in the Great Chamber. The Vryn Empire held the most powerful seats, their representatives sitting in places of honor. Kim walked to the speaker's platform, her hands shaking with controlled rage. 50,000 human civilians were murdered, Kim began. Her voice echoed through the chamber. They were farmers, teachers, doctors, children. They had committed no crime. They had followed every law. They were given 6 hours to evacuate a world they had called home for 12 years. Then they were killed. I bring video evidence. I bring testimony from survivors. I bring the documented proof that New Sol Colony was legally established under Galactic Treaty 447. She played the footage. The attack played on the massive screens surrounding the council chamber. Some representatives looked away. Others watched with apparent disinterest. The Vryn representatives sat motionless, their alien faces showing no emotion. When the footage ended, Kim spoke again. I demand justice. I demand the Vryn Empire be held accountable for this massacre. I demand reparations for the survivors. I demand the admiral who ordered this attack face trial for war crimes. The Vryn's senior representative stood. He was tall, with gray skin and 4 arms. His species had ruled much of the galaxy for thousands of years. When he spoke, his voice was cold. The humans were warned. They occupied territory claimed by the Vryn Empire under ancient rights. We followed proper protocol. We gave them time to leave. What happened after that was their choice. Kim could not believe what she was hearing. You murdered 50,000 people. You destroyed an entire colony. How can you call that proper protocol? Because your species is young and ignorant. The Vryn representative replied. You do not understand galactic history. You do not understand the ancient territorial markers that predate your civilization by millions of years. You are children playing at being adults. This council should never have granted you expansion rights in the first place. Other representatives began to speak. Some expressed sympathy for humanity's loss, but none demanded action against the Vryn Empire. A few suggested that perhaps both sides shared blame. Several said humanity should have been more careful about where they established colonies. One representative suggested that human expansion had been too aggressive, and this was an unfortunate but predictable result. Admiral Choi Min-ho watched the council proceedings from Earth. He was the supreme commander of the United Earth Navy, a man who had spent 40 years in military service. He had fought pirates, stopped smugglers, and protected human ships from the dangers of deep space. But the United Earth Navy had only 30 major warships. They had never been designed to fight a real war. They existed mainly to show that humanity had a presence in space. Choi watched as the Galactic Council voted on Ambassador Kim's demands. The vote was not even close. Only 5 species voted to condemn the Vryn Empire. 243 voted against taking any action. 52 abstained. The council classified the New Sol incident as a frontier territorial dispute and closed the matter. Ambassador Kim returned to Earth defeated. She had believed in the system. She had believed that the laws and treaties meant something. She had been proven wrong in the most terrible way possible. When she stepped off the shuttle, reporters surrounded her. She spoke without notes, without preparation, just raw emotion. "The Galactic Council has shown us who they are," Kim said, her voice breaking. "They have shown us that justice is only for the strong, that laws protect only those with the power to enforce them, that the lives of 50,000 humans mean nothing to them. We sought justice. They gave us contempt." The president of the Earth Council addressed humanity the next day. The president was an old man who had led Earth through difficult times before. He had always been a voice for peace, for diplomacy, for working within the galactic system. But as he spoke, his voice was harder than anyone had ever heard it. "We tried their way," the president said. "We followed their laws. We respected their treaties. We asked for justice through their courts. They laughed at us. They told us we do not matter. Very well. If the galaxy will not give us justice, we will take it ourselves. If they will not respect our laws, we will make them respect our strength. The Vryn Empire will answer for what they did. And every species that stood by and did nothing will remember this day." Earth began to mobilize for war. Every human colony contributed resources. Shipyards that had built cargo vessels started building warships. Factories that had made farming equipment started making weapons. Research centers that had studied peaceful technologies started studying weapon systems. Young people lined up at recruitment centers. Old veterans came out of retirement. Jang Suyuk, the survivor who had lost everything, stood in one of those recruitment lines. A reporter asked him why he was joining the military when he had already lost so much. Jang's answer was simple and cold. "I am already dead," he said. "My life ended when they killed my family. But my body is still here. I will use it to make them pay. I will use it to make sure no other family suffers what mine did. I have nothing left to lose. That makes me dangerous." Captain Lee signed up to train new pilots. Commander Yoon Dae-ho took a position training Special Operations Forces. Dr. Kang's colleagues, mourning their lost friend, volunteered their skills to military medical research. Every survivor, every person who had lost someone, found a way to contribute. Admiral Choi stood in the Earth Navy headquarters, looking at the strategic maps. The Vryn Empire controlled thousands of star systems. They had a population of 400 billion spread across countless worlds. Their military had fought and won wars for millennia. They had technology humanity could barely understand. They had allies throughout the galaxy. Humanity had 8 billion people across 12 colonies, 30 warships, technology that was considered primitive by galactic standards. No allies who would openly support them. Every military analyst said the war was suicide, that humanity would be crushed, that the smart choice was to accept what had happened and try to rebuild. Choi smiled grimly as he looked at the maps. The analysts were thinking about traditional warfare, fleet battles, territorial conquest, the kind of warfare the galactic empires had fought for millions of years. But Choi had studied human history. He knew about Vietnam, about Afghanistan, about every time a smaller force with less technology had defeated a larger empire. He knew that humans did not fight fair. They fought to win. "Let them come," Choi said to his staff officers. "Let them think we are primitives who will fall easily. They are about to learn why humanity survived Earth. We did not become the dominant species on a death world by following rules. We did it by being meaner, smarter, and more stubborn than everything that tried to kill us. The Vryn think this will be easy. They are wrong." The Vryn Empire received Earth's formal declaration of war 3 weeks later. The Vryn High Command laughed. They sent a single battle group to crush Earth's rebellion. 40 warships, commanded by experienced admirals, crewed by professional soldiers. They would jump into the solar system, destroy Earth's pathetic navy, bombard a few cities until humanity surrendered, and be home within a month. It would not work out that way. But the Vryn did not know that yet. They did not understand what they had awakened. They had killed 50,000 humans, expecting no consequences. They were about to learn the price of that mistake. 6 months had passed since New Sol burned. The Vryn battle group entered the Rigel sector expecting to find Earth's defense fleet waiting for them. Admiral Korvath commanded the Vryn forces from his flagship, a massive dreadnought called Eternal Victory. He had fought in 17 campaigns over his long career. He had crushed rebellions before. This would be no different. Sensors show no enemy ships, his tactical officer reported. The sector appears empty. Korvath found that strange. Intelligence reports said humans had moved most of their fleet here. Where were they? He ordered his ships to move forward in standard battle formation. 40 Vryn warships advanced through the asteroid field, their shields up, their weapons ready. Everything seemed quiet. Then the ambush began. Captain Han Ji-woo watched from her position inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Her ship, the Silent Blade, was a new type of vessel designed by human engineers. It had no large engines, no powerful shields, no heavy weapons. Instead, it was small, quiet, and nearly invisible to standard sensors. The Vryn had never needed to develop technology to detect stealth ships because galactic warfare had always been about honor and direct combat. That was their first mistake. All ships, execute attack pattern Ghost, Han whispered into her comm system. Around her, 30 other stealth frigates powered up their engines. They emerged from hiding spots throughout the asteroid field, appearing on Vryn sensors only when they were already too close to stop. The Silent Blade fired everything it had at the nearest Vryn cruiser. The weapons were not powerful enough to destroy the ship, but that was not the plan. The missiles were carrying something else. Chief Engineer Bayman Seo had spent months developing a virus that could infiltrate Vryn computer systems. The moment the missile struck, the virus spread through the cruiser's network. The Vryn cruiser's lights went dark. Its weapons stopped firing. Its shields collapsed. The ship was still intact, but it was helpless. Before the Vryn crew could regain control, human boarding pods launched from the asteroid field. Sergeant Wang Yemen led his Marines through the breach. Vryn soldiers were trained warriors. They had better weapons, stronger armor, and more combat experience. But they had never fought humans before. They had never faced an enemy that would blow the atmosphere out of entire sections to suffocate defenders. They had never dealt with soldiers who would use their own bodies as distractions, while others attacked from unexpected angles. They had never fought people who had learned to kill in the brutal environment of Earth. Wang's team moved through the Vryn ship like ghosts. They did not try to hold territory. They sabotaged life support. They destroyed power systems. They set explosives on timers and then retreated. Within 20 minutes, they were back in their pods and launching away. The Vryn cruiser was dead in space, its crew evacuating in escape pods. This same scene repeated across the battle group. Stealth frigates struck and disappeared. Boarding parties caused chaos and retreated. Human ships appeared on sensors for seconds, struck hard, and vanished before the Vryn could respond. It was not honorable combat. It was not the warfare of civilized galactic empires. It was humanity fighting the only way it knew how when outmatched. Admiral Korvath tried to adapt. He ordered his ships to stay close together for mutual protection. He had them scan continuously for stealth signatures. He sent fighters to patrol the asteroid field. But humans had already planned for that. Engineer Bay had placed mines throughout the sector, disguised as ordinary space debris. When Vryn fighters passed too close, the mines activated. The battle lasted 14 hours. When it ended, 17 of the 40 Vryn warships had been destroyed or disabled. The rest had taken heavy damage. Human losses were 7 stealth frigates destroyed and 400 Marines killed in boarding actions. By any military calculation, that was an impossible exchange ratio. The smaller, weaker, less advanced force had devastated the Vryn battle group. Korvath ordered a retreat. He needed time to analyze what had happened and plan a new approach. But the humans were not done. As his ships limped toward the jump point, Captain Lee appeared with 20 converted cargo ships. They looked like ordinary transports, but Lee and her pilots had loaded them with every explosive they could carry. "For New Sol," Lee said over an open channel. Then she and her pilots flew their ships directly into the retreating Vryn formation at maximum speed. The Vryn tried to shoot them down, but some got through. The explosions tore apart 3 more Vryn ships. Lee survived by ejecting at the last second. Her crew picked her up 2 hours later. Only 12 Vryn ships made it back to their territory. Korvath's report to the High Command was filled with disbelief and confusion. The humans had fought without honor. They had used tricks and traps. They had sacrificed their own people for tactical advantage. They had violated every rule of civilized warfare. And they had won. The Vryn High Command did not believe the report at first. How could primitive humans defeat a professional battle group? They sent investigators to question the survivors. When the investigators confirmed the story, the Vryn leadership grew angry. These humans needed to be taught a lesson they would never forget. They assembled a much larger fleet. 50 dreadnoughts, 200 cruisers, 500 support ships. They would crush humanity completely. Admiral Choi received intelligence reports about the new Vryn fleet. His staff officers looked worried. Some suggested trying to negotiate peace before this massive force reached Earth. Choi just smiled and pulled up a holographic map of Vryn territory. "They are sending their ships to us," Choi said, "which means those ships are not protecting their territory. Captain Han, I have a mission for you." While the massive Vryn fleet moved toward Earth, Han took a strike force deep into Vryn space. They targeted shipyards, supply depots, fuel stations, anything that supported the Vryn military. They did not try to hold what they captured. They destroyed it and moved on. Hit and run. Strike and fade. Classic guerrilla warfare applied to an interstellar scale. The Vryn could not ignore these attacks. They had to pull ships away from the main fleet to protect their territory. This made the approaching fleet smaller. But Choi had more surprises waiting. When the Vryn fleet finally reached human space, they found the colonies heavily fortified. Earth had built hundreds of orbital defense platforms. They had mined the approach routes. They had positioned their ships not for a glorious battle, but for a defensive war of attrition. The Vryn attacked colony after colony. They won, but each victory cost them ships and time. The humans fought for every meter of space. They booby-trapped their own stations so they would explode when captured. They sent out fake distress signals to lure Vryn ships into ambushes. They hacked Vryn communication networks to spread false information. They fought dirty, and it worked. A year into the war, the Vryn had captured 3 human colonies, but they had lost over 200 ships doing it. Their economy was straining under the cost. Their other enemies, seeing the Vryn weakened, began testing their borders. Other species who resented Vryn domination started secretly supplying humanity with weapons and intelligence. Wang, now lieutenant, led a raid on a Vryn colony called Targo Station. His orders were clear. Make them hurt. Make them understand what New Sol felt. He and his team infiltrated the station, planted explosives in the civilian quarter, and left a message in the Galactic Common Language. 50,000 of ours. For every one, you will lose 100 of yours. This is justice. When the news reached Earth, there was debate. Some people said this made humans no better than the Vryn. Others said the Vryn deserved everything they got. The survivors from New Sol were split. Jang Soo-yuk, who had become a spokesperson for the victims, spoke at a memorial service. "My family died because the Vryn thought we did not matter," Jang said. "I do not celebrate the deaths of Vryn civilians, but I will not apologize for them either. We begged for mercy and got none. We asked for justice and were laughed at. Now they are learning what it means to fight humans. I hope they remember this pain. I hope it haunts them the way New Sol haunts us. Because if they remember, maybe they will never do this to anyone else." The war continued. Humanity was not winning in any traditional sense. They were losing territory. Their casualties were enormous. But they were making the Vryn pay such a terrible price that the war had become unsustainable. The Vryn economy was in crisis. Their military was exhausted. Their allies were questioning their strength. And somewhere in the back of every Vryn leader's mind was a terrible question. If the humans kept fighting like this, kept making every victory cost so much, how long could the Empire survive? 2 years had passed since the New Sol massacre. 2 years of brutal warfare that had shocked the entire galaxy. The Vryn Empire, which had never lost a war in its 1,000-year history, was struggling against a species they had considered primitive. But the cost to humanity was staggering. Officer Shin Yoongi sat in the briefing room of the warship Determination, listening to Admiral Oh Ye-jin outline their next mission. Shin was 24 years old. Before the war, he'd been a student studying ancient human history. Now he was a naval officer who had seen more death than any person should witness in a lifetime. The mission briefing made him feel sick. "Our target is Vryn Station Helios 7, Admiral O explained, pointing at the holographic display. "It is a major refueling depot in the outer territories. Intelligence shows minimal military presence, mostly civilian workers and their families. Destroying it will cut off supplies to 3 Vryn battle groups." "Admiral," Shin spoke up, his voice uncertain. "The intelligence report says there are 60,000 civilians on that station. If we destroy it, they will not have time to evacuate." Oh looked at Shin with tired eyes. She was 47 years old and had lost her husband and son in a Vryn counterattack on Mars Colony. "I know what the intelligence says, officer. I read the same report you did. Then how can we do this?" Shin asked. "We are about to kill civilians. That is exactly what the Vryn did to New Sol. How are we any different?" The room went silent. Other officers looked uncomfortable. Some agreed with Shin, but did not dare say it. Others believed the mission was necessary. Admiral O stood up slowly and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "You want to know how we are different?" O said quietly. "We did not start this war. We tried peace. We tried diplomacy. We tried their laws. The Vryn killed 50,000 of our civilians and called it territorial correction. Every species in this galaxy looked away. No one helped us. No one stood up for us. We are fighting alone because we have no choice." "But innocent people will die," Shin insisted. "Innocent people have been dying for 2 years," O replied, her voice harder now. "Do you think I sleep well at night? Do you think I enjoy giving these orders? Every time I close my eyes, I see my son's face. He was 8 years old when the Vryn bombed Mars. He was playing in his school playground. The Vryn did not care that he was a child. They did not care about any of our children." She turned to face Shin directly. "We have become monsters. I know that, but we are alive. And when this war ends, the Vryn will never dare attack another human colony. Neither will any other species. That is worth the price. That is worth my soul." The mission went forward. The Determination and its support ships jumped to Helios 7. They gave the station a 10-minute warning to evacuate, which was not enough time for 60,000 people to escape. Then they destroyed it. Shin watched the station break apart on the tactical display, knowing that he was watching people die. People who had families. People who had probably never even supported the war. When it was over, he went to his quarters and threw up. Captain Lee was fighting in a different part of the war. She now commanded a squadron of attack ships, hitting Rin supply lines throughout their territory. Her ship had been damaged in a recent engagement, and her crew had barely escaped. As she recovered in a medical station, a reporter came to interview her. The reporter asked if she ever regretted joining the military. Regret? Lee laughed bitterly. Every single day. But regret does not change anything. The Vrin made this war when they decided we did not deserve to live. I am just finishing what they started. Some people say humanity has lost its way, the reporter said. That we have become as bad as the Vrin. Lee looked at the camera directly. Those people did not watch New Soul burn. They did not see Governor Park send his last message before he died. They did not carry 3,000 survivors who had lost everything. The Vrin destroyed an entire colony in 6 hours for no reason except arrogance. We are fighting for our survival. If that makes us monsters, then at least we are alive monsters. Dr. Nam Taeyang worked in a secret research facility on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. He was a physicist who had spent years studying stellar mechanics. Now he was developing what some called humanity's ultimate weapon, a device that could destabilize a star, turning it into a supernova that would destroy everything in the system. Nam hated his work. He had become a scientist to understand the universe, not to destroy it. But every time he thought about quitting, he remembered his colleague Dr. Kang Minji, who had died at New Seoul. She had stayed with her patients until the end. The least he could do was finish this work, even though it made him feel like a war criminal. The test was successful, Nam reported to Admiral Choi during a secured video call. We can trigger a supernova remotely. Once activated, nothing can stop it. The star will explode within hours. Everything within 5 light years will be destroyed. Choi looked at the data with a grim expression. How many of these devices can we build? With current resources, maybe 10, Nam replied. But Admiral, please understand what you are asking. Each device could kill billions. Not just soldiers. Billions of civilians who have nothing to do with this war. If we use these weapons, we will be committing genocide on a scale the galaxy has never seen. I know exactly what I am asking, Choi said. And I pray we never have to use them. But the Vrin need to know we have them. They need to understand that if they push us too far, we will end them completely. Mutually assured destruction worked on Earth during the Cold War. It can work now. The debate over the Star Killer weapon consumed Earth's leadership. The president of Earth Council called an emergency session. Some leaders argued the weapon was necessary to force the Vrin to negotiate. Others said it made humanity no better than monsters. Religious leaders prayed for guidance. Philosophers debated the ethics. Ordinary people protested in the streets, some demanding the weapon be used immediately, others demanding it be destroyed. Meanwhile, the war ground on. Human casualties had reached 2 million. 23% of Earth's navy had been destroyed. 4 colonies had fallen to Vrin occupation. But Vrin losses were even worse. They had lost 400 ships. 12 colonies had been damaged or destroyed by human raids. And their economy was collapsing under the weight of military spending. The Vrin High Command held an emergency meeting. For the first time in their civilization's history, they were considering surrender. Not complete surrender, but a negotiated peace. The humans had proven they could not be easily defeated. Every victory against them cost too much. The war was destroying both sides. The Vryn sent diplomatic messages to Earth, requesting peace negotiations. Ambassador Kim, who had been humiliated by the Galactic Council 2 years earlier, read the message with cold satisfaction. The mighty Vryn Empire, which had laughed at human suffering, was now begging for peace. What should we tell them? The president asked Kim during a cabinet meeting. "Tell them we will consider their request," Kim replied. "But first, they need to understand our terms. Full admission of guilt for New Sol. Public trials for the admiral who ordered the attack. Reparations for every victim. And changes to the Galactic Council structure so this can never happen again." "They will never accept those terms," a military advisor said. Kim smiled coldly. "Then the war continues. Let them think about that while their economy burns and their people suffer. Let them understand what it means to fight humans. We did not want this war. They forced it on us. Now they will end it on our terms, or they will not end it at all." The message was sent to the Vryn. The galaxy watched and waited. Some species admired humanity's determination. Others feared what humans had become. The peaceful species that had seemed so friendly just 2 years ago had transformed into something terrifying. Something that fought without mercy. Something that would destroy stars themselves rather than accept defeat. Shin sat in his quarters on the determination, writing a letter he would never send. It was addressed to his younger sister, who had died in the Vryn counterattack on Mars. "I am not the person you knew," he wrote. "I have done things that would make you ashamed. I have killed people who probably did not deserve to die. I tell myself it is for a greater purpose, that we are protecting humanity. But some nights, I wonder if we are just creating more monsters. I miss you. I miss who I used to be." The war had changed everyone. The question now was whether the peace could change them back. 3 years after the New Sol massacre, Ambassador Kim Yuna walked into the Galactic Council chamber for the second time. The first time, she had come begging for justice and been humiliated. This time, she came with Admiral Choi Minho at her side and the aged Jang Soo-yuk walking behind her. The galaxy had learned to fear humans during 3 years of brutal war. Now it would learn to respect them. The Vryn Empire had requested this emergency council session. They wanted to negotiate peace terms. Their economy was in ruins. Their military had lost 600 ships. 12 of their colonies had been damaged or destroyed. Other species were taking advantage of Vryn weakness, pushing into territories they had controlled for centuries. The Vryn needed this war to end, and everyone in the chamber knew it. The Vryn senior representative stood to speak. He looked older than he had 3 years ago, more tired. "The Vryn Empire wishes to open peace negotiations with humanity. We are prepared to offer territorial concessions, trade agreements, and compensation for the unfortunate incident at New Sol Colony." Kim remained seated, her face cold. "Unfortunate incident? You killed 50,000 of our people and called it territorial correction. You laughed when we asked for justice. You told us we were children playing at civilization. Now you are losing a war, so suddenly it becomes an unfortunate incident." The chamber was silent. 3 years ago, no one would have dared speak to the Vryn this way. But humanity had earned the right through blood and fire. They had proven they could make the Vryn hurt. They had proven they could make the entire galaxy hurt if they wanted to. What are humanity's terms? The council moderator asked. Kim stood and projected a document onto the chamber screens. "Our terms are non-negotiable. First, the Vryn Empire must make a full public admission of guilt for the New Sol massacre. Second, the admiral who ordered the attack must face trial at a neutral galactic court. Third, the Vryn will pay full reparations to every survivor and to the families of every victim. Fourth, the Galactic Council structure will be reformed to include humanity as a permanent member with full voting rights. Fifth, A new galactic court of justice will be established where all species have equal standing under law. The Vrin representative's face showed shock. These terms are outrageous. We are offering peace, and you demand we humiliate ourselves? You humiliated yourselves when you murdered civilians, Choi said, speaking for the first time. His voice was hard as steel. You humiliated yourselves when you started a war you could not win. You want peace? These are the terms. Accept them, or the war continues. You cannot dictate terms to the Vrin Empire. The representative shouted. Choi smiled without humor. Actually, we can. Admiral O's Retribution Fleet is currently positioned in the Vrin Prime system. They are carrying the Star Killer device. One command from me, and your home sun becomes a supernova. Your capital world, your shipyards, your military command, everything within 5 light years will be destroyed. 50 billion of your people will die. That is 1,000 of yours for every one of ours. Do you want to see if we are bluffing? The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. Some species demanded humanity be stopped immediately. Others remained silent, watching to see what would happen. The Vrin representative looked at his datapad, confirming the human fleet's position. His hands were shaking. This is terrorism, the representative said quietly. You are threatening genocide. No. Jang Soo-yuk spoke up from his seat. Genocide is what you did to New Seoul. This is justice. You taught us that the galaxy respects only strength, that laws protect only those with power to enforce them. We learned your lesson well. Now you will accept our terms, or you will learn what it means to truly lose everything. The Vrin Empire requested a recess to consult with their government. For 2 hours, the council waited. During that time, other species approached Kim with questions. Some asked if humanity was really willing to destroy an entire star system. Kim's answer was simple and honest. We do not want to, she said, but we will if we must. The Vrin believed we would not fight back when they killed our people. They were wrong. Do not make the same mistake. When the council reconvened, the Vrin representative looked defeated. The Vrin High Command has authorized me to accept humanity's terms. All of them. We will make the public admission. We will allow the trial. We will pay the reparations. We ask only that the human fleet withdraw from Vrin Prime and that the Starkiller device be dismantled. The fleet will withdraw when the first payment of reparations is received, Choi said. The Starkiller will be dismantled when the reforms to the Galactic Council are complete. And if the Vrin ever threaten humanity or any of our allies again, we will build more of them. We will build 1,000 if we must. The age of Vrin domination is over. You will learn to live in a galaxy of equals, or you will not live at all. The peace treaty was signed 3 weeks later. The trial of the Vrin admiral, who had ordered the New Seoul attack, was broadcast across the galaxy. The admiral showed no remorse at first, claiming he had followed proper procedure. Then the prosecutors showed the footage. All of it. The 6-hour warning. The families trying to evacuate. Dr. Kang staying with her patients. Governor Park's final message. The bombardment. The death of 47,000 people. Jang Soo-yuk testified at the trial. He had lost his wife, both his sons and his parents that day. He stood in front of the court and spoke directly to the admiral. You killed 50,000 people because you thought we did not matter. You gave us 6 hours to evacuate a world we had called home for 12 years. You did not care that we had children. You did not care that we had lives. You saw us as insects to be cleared away. He paused, his voice breaking. My son Minwoo was 7 years old. He wanted to be a scientist. My son Ji-hoon was 5. He loved to draw pictures of the purple grass. My wife Hannah taught music at the colony school. My father had just retired after 50 years as an engineer. My mother was a nurse who helped bring 30 babies into the world on that colony. They all had names. They all had dreams. They all mattered. Jang pulled out a data chip. I have the names of all 50,000 victims here. Their ages, their occupations, their families. I want you to read them. Every single one. I want you to understand that you did not destroy a number. You destroyed 50,000 individual lives. Each one precious. Each one irreplaceable. The trial lasted 6 weeks. The admiral was found guilty of crimes against sentient beings. He was sentenced to life imprisonment on a neutral prison world. The Vrin Empire issued a formal apology, broadcast across every communication network in the galaxy. It was not enough to bring anyone back, but it was acknowledgement. It was the galaxy admitting that human lives mattered. The reparations were paid. Every survivor received compensation. Every family that had lost someone received compensation. It could not replace what was taken, but it was something. The money funded memorials, scholarships, and programs to help the survivors rebuild their lives. The Galactic Council was reformed. Humanity received a permanent seat. The new Galactic Court of Justice was established with equal representation from all species. No empire could act with impunity anymore. Laws would be enforced fairly, or there would be consequences. On Earth, 50,000 trees were planted in a memorial park. Each tree had a plaque with a name. Visitors walked through the forest, reading the names, remembering the dead. Captain Lee attended the dedication ceremony. She had survived the war with multiple injuries and numerous commendations for bravery. But she felt no pride, only exhaustion. Shin, now a lieutenant commander, attended with her. He had struggled with guilt for years over the things he had done during the war. The civilians who had died because of missions he had participated in. The moral lines he had crossed. Was it worth it? He asked Lee as they walked among the trees. All the death, all the destruction, everything we became? Lee stopped at a tree marked with Governor Park's name. She remembered his final message, his courage in staying with his people until the end. I do not know if it was worth it, she said honestly. But I know what would have happened if we had done nothing. The Vrin would have killed more of us. Other species would have seen that humans could be attacked without consequences. Our children would have grown up in fear, always wondering when the next massacre would come. She looked at the forest of memorial trees, thousands of them stretching in every direction. We did not want to be warriors. We wanted to be explorers, scientists, builders. The Vrin made us into something else. But we did what we had to do. We made sure the galaxy would never forget New Sol. We made sure no human colony would ever face what they faced. Admiral Choi gave a speech at the memorial. He was older now, gray-haired and scarred from the war. We remember the 50,000 who died here today. But we also remember what their deaths taught us. That justice is not given freely. That respect must be earned. That strength is sometimes necessary to protect what we love. He paused, looking out at the crowd of survivors, veterans, and families. We paid a terrible price to learn these lessons. 2 million of our people died in the war. 4 colonies were lost. We did things that will haunt us forever. But we ensured that our species will survive.